Kai-Uwe?
Yes, I'm ready, hopefully, and you can see my screen in best possible way.
We see.
Okay, perfect. So first, a great thanks for organizing this wonderful DataViz conference, Alex, and letting me speak here. Great pleasure. Thank you for that. As you already introduced, I'm going to speak about dashboarding and self-service. The methodology we thought by BI or Die. BI or Die is kind of the content brand. The focus of BI or Die, or all the formats we have, is basically German speaking. So I don't know of whom of you it is of interest, but there's a podcast, there are multiple books, there are events, there are YouTube stuff. Everything is basically, as I said, on the focus on German speaking stuff. There are a few English things in between, so maybe there's also something in for you. If you start thinking about self-service, I like to address the basics or some basic beliefs we often observe if we enter an organization or a larger organization, thinking, okay, what can we do within the self-service environment? And then we often see something like that, or some beliefs, or if other consultants are entering the company, say, oh, we're doing a self-service strategy first and a broad analysis of blah, blah, blah. I say, okay, that's nothing worth. Just not doing that. It's all about starting, as we discussed it already beforehand in our panel discussion. I think start first. And of course, there need to be a strategy to some degree, or to some, if it's really advanced and stuff like that. But I think the most important aspect is really to have this agile mindset, to start, to think about some products, some lighthouse projects, integrate them, really being able to deliver added value to the organization. And it's not really worth to discuss so many things or to do broad analysis at the beginning. Starting, that's the most important aspect. Think about the tool and think about delivering it within your ecosystem. Everything is the ecosystem, from the tool, from the methodologies, from the people. And then another thought often is, my people are enabled after a short tool training. Tool training, the old tool training, okay, they're 1-2 days and then you're fit to do anything. That is obviously not true. It is nice. It's something like an acceleration. You are having in a perfect world, perfect data set, perfect everything, easy and concrete requirements. But it's not that in the real world. So it might be a tool training in the use of accelerating your company, your organization, but then really it's the daily practice, it's the continuity. You need to do that. You need to practice it within your own environment. You need to have the challenge accepted with your colleagues, with their requirements. And that's only where you can add value. Short training, it's a nice, cool thing, accelerate, but then the work really starts. And also from the perspective of an IT department, self-service does not mean no service. Only providing the infrastructure, the ecosystem, the data, even in a perfect quality, and the greatest tool you could think of, it is definitely nothing worth. You need to think of how to enable the people behind that organization. So what are the services you can add? I also remember a very, very easy story. At that time at Roche, it's a large pharma company. We did all those standard things and did great dashboards. The best thing, the most of the people remember after a few years, is say, well, you implemented this, we call it Tableau doctor session. So there was just easy service so that people, when they struggle, they have the option to consult someone. There was, I don't know, bi-weekly or even every week, there was 1 hour where they come with their problems. So here is the service attitude. There, among other things, it's just a very small story, but keep that in mind. Self-service does not mean no service. With that in mind, we can think about a definition of self-service. And that's, again, a very, very tough thing. Because I've just listed a few one. They were just within our survey. We did a little survey within the BI or DI environment about what do we actually think about self-service? So there could be definitions from IT provides me with all the data I need to build dashboards on. The second one, I have access to all data sources. Or number three, I can run filters in the dashboards. And the last thing, maybe for us, it sounds a bit weird. I can run filters, but people from business coming from an Excel perspective, from an Excel world, really doing filters and being able to have interactive environments in your dashboard, it's maybe a huge thing. So there is no one definition of self-service. We need to keep in mind that there are multiple stakeholders, multiple target groups, and for that, we need to provide our methodology. Keep that in mind. There's not only one self-service definition. There's one really from, okay, I got all the data sources, even the data sources, I can adapt everything more or less, to I just set some filters. So they are definitely the different target groups, and we need to think on how to enable them. And then a few insights into the self-service methodology. They're basically 4 things we usually keep in mind when discussing those aspects or self-service discussions in larger organizations. We think about integrating front-end or self-service standard. So let's say, what is the visual appearance of our dashboards, of our data products? Standard does not only mean we only focus on the elements within the dashboard, but also about the whole process. We start with motivation. Why do we do that? Collecting the requirements, doing some paper prototyping, and actually bringing it to go live. And also think about how to raise or increase adoption within our target group. Templates, I think that's just a logical step. If you have a standard, how can you really ease the path for everyone building dashboards based on some templates? Because just having, I don't know, a PowerPoint definition, that's nothing worth. I mean, it's not interactive. No one can use it. You need to really struggle in redesigning that. So templates are a good thing. And then the challenge thought we also pretty much like, because as I said, there might be a core team, a centralized core team really starting this self-service path. But at the end of the day, it is the people within the organization who will drive that to success. And if that's the case, we need to learn and teach them our methodologies so that it could be more or less move from this centralized approach to a more decentralized approach, where everyone is adding those small pieces we discussed in the panel discussion. Because adding everyone, just a small step in the overall organization, it could be a huge one. So what do I mean about standard? Standard basically is all the formulation, best practice, guideline, however you might call it. There's also a lot of inspiration from IBCS, International Business Communication Standards, as just one idea, or any other people thinking, okay, how could I standardize my, let's say, visual appearance of our dashboards and data products we provide within our organization? What are the key terms? What are the key disciplines we always think of? We also, as said, we have multiple books. The Visual Business Analytics book was our first one. We did that together with the Fraunhofer Institute. So there's also kind of this theoretical background. And we have the experience from the projects. The first discipline, and that's the information design, the visual appearance of the presentation. Actually, it is a presentation, something we provide here. It's not about interactivity. It's about how do I use color? How do I use frames? How do I use charts? Which type of charts? In which scenario do I use this or that specific chart? How do I all the formatting? How do I perceive that? This is all information design is all about. And information design, that could be done in excellent PowerPoint as well. But we need to transfer this information design rules to an interactive environment, visual business intelligence or dashboard design, what we call it. Here we have larger data sets. It's more managed self-service, I would say. It's an interactive environment, and you can easily drill through the summary page until the details. It's a guided dashboard. It could be everything, let's say, more or less navigated by everyone. It's a larger group of people. And we also need to answer questions like, okay, where do I set filters? How many filters are allowed? How are the paths from the landing page until the detail page? What is handing over filters and stuff like that? All those navigation paths, this is also part of the story. What are the different dashboarding types? And then lastly, in the final step, we also need about a visual analytics. So here it's more advanced. It's a smaller group of people, more advanced people, really having not a precise question in mind like you have in the daily or monthly report or whatever you start with. It is just explanatory in the way that you start more or less without a clear question. Just look at the data, trying to find the needle on the haystack, finding new things, new anomalies, new patterns. And this is more or less the disciplines. If I think about a standard, the things we normally teach: information design, visual business intelligence, and visual analytics. The general idea, if it's very simplistic, you see multiple circles in here in a different coloring. Using a standard will transfer those multiple into more structure. Here you have a semi-structure. Here it is all. If I just answer the question, okay, how many circles do you see in here? It's much easier to answer than it is here. It's always the same, 25 circles. And if I then even use, say, okay, color, it's no added value. So reduce the color and use now color on purpose, saying, okay, 5 times 5, this is how really you guide the eyes of the user to answer this question. So this is the idea of standardization, I think, in a very simplified way. But also thinking about the standards within a dashboard, what do we believe? We always believe saying, okay, what can we use from other disciplines? What can we use from daily practice? And I think Netflix is a great idea. Many of us are probably using Netflix. We're not opening our television in any other way. So they are using tiles from the starting point, having a preview, clear structure, ordering, starting on with the most importance on the top left. And that's more or less the same what we try to achieve within our dashboard. From the guided dashboard, the first discipline or the second discipline I described here, saying, okay, we have the tiles providing an overview, and then we step by step deal with the next detail level. And from that, we open the detail level. Here you see it in parallel with the Nowitzki, the perfect chart. So more details for field view, as we describe it here, providing charts, deviations, and also a little aspect here. I think the deviation, not always thinking about the whole number, but really in comparison to specific reference value. I think this is also a good thing. It's always your the deviation chart from our perspective, because that's what you like to see. Deviation to plan, deviation to forecast, deviation to last year, whatever, or any reference value we could think of. And then lastly, here, and also a lot of visual interaction is possible on this second page. And then lastly, you're in the abstract here of the video on the left-hand side. If you continue the story of the Netflix effect, and on the right-hand side, that's more or less the table or the visual table. So we have those 3 steps: from the landing page, detail page, zoom page, and switch from detail to zoom from a more visual view to a textual elements. I said, but it's not only the aspect of thinking about the representation within the dashboard, but also about the process itself. So if someone requests a dashboard, what are the clear and logical steps? I think a well-designed dashboard requirement process is really crucial if you like to speeden up the process within your organization. And speed is also very important. If people are saying, okay, we want to be more data-driven, you need to deliver it out. So thinking about, okay, how do I motivate others that they be part of this journey? What do they need to know about the concept, about the standards? How do I teach that? And also think about the requirements definition. Is it a questionnaire? Is it a dashboard canvas? Is it kind of a communication? Is it just a workshop? and then really start prototyping. In prototyping, we really believe that prototyping, let's say paper prototyping, not directly in the tool, that this is very essential, because we're focusing on the business requirements and we are not lacking, okay, the tool is not yet ready, the data is not available. We really like to figure out what are the true requirements. Then, of course, we need to implement it, we need to review it, and then there's even needs to be some time for the delivery. Because if you just provide dashboards without a representation and saying, okay, that's the coolest dashboard ever, you could create the highest quality dashboard. If you're not telling someone within your organization that they are available and that they really add value, no one will use that. So it's all about marketing and internal influencing. The templates, it doesn't really matter whether it's SAP, whether it's Power BI, whether it's any other tool. It doesn't really matter from my perspective. You can provide it in almost every tool. And it could be more advanced, it could be just the basic, but just think what is possible for you based on the standards you defined. And I also said, okay, why not showing you something, our dashboard template for the self-service environment here in Power BI. And just a few insights, because I not only wanted to talk on this, let's say, theoretical thing, just show you something. Either thing is just to provide them some chart overview, saying, okay, these are the charts, how they could work within Power BI and how you can use it, so that they have examples in their data, so that they say, okay, in a case I need a deviation chart, here it is. You can directly copy and paste it, either with or without a hierarchy in mind or whatever. Here you see the hierarchies, or if it's just the clear numbers. It doesn't really matter, but just show the people something. If they get more inspiration, they can use it easier, and then it's better really for adaptation and use it overall. The other thing is really also show them clear dashboards. In our definition, visual business intelligence, here we focus on the guided dashboard, larger user group, or the analytic dashboard, smaller user group, really finding the needle in the haystack visual analytics dashboard. Just one example, all more or less it's defined in the standard, the monitoring dashboard. You have here, as I presented in you with the Netflix effect, first overview, getting an overview, okay, about the turnover for the total and all the different countries. And then you have, okay, you have the total, you have the deviation. So where does something change? You have the actual, the budget, the total number. So you can also put that in reference. And then, for example, right click and then drill through, and then you can jump to the total on the detail level. So that's the second level. We always have kind of a plan, a clear framework on how to build the dashboard. And then you have these 4 field view, you have a title, concept, etc. And then you have the categories, for example, subcategories, country, whatever you like, and then all the visual interaction is possible, just clicking within the charts, and it's adapting based on what you select. So there's a lot of different views you can create just based on this second view. We often say this second view is the most effective one. You select based, okay, where's something happening on the first view, and then you do a lot of visual filtering, etc., on this view. You can also reset the filters, and also not only the things you see here, but also if you like to do, for example, some drill downs through the different hierarchies, you can also do that quite easily, and everything is adapted based on that, and then you can continue your analysis. And in the last step, if you like, there is then the drill down to the zoom page of this monitoring dashboard. There you have, of course, also some visual elements, but here the focus is in the table view, and also again some visual interactivity. Return to the detail page, continue your analysis, or going back to the landing page and then continue your analysis from another perspective, from the countryside or whatever. So this is all about the templates, and I think it's quite important to think about templates really for acceleration, and also being able to push the idea of the standard quite forward. And then the challenge, that's the last thing. I said tool trainings, they are more or less, they had their days. So we don't need to think about that. So we need about think how to enable people in the way that they are being able to have actionable results at the end of the day. So we think about the challenge. So that is also really people are more like, oh yeah, we need to develop something. So we motivate them, we nominate them, we define the targets, we identify use cases, what they can implement, where the data is ready, et cetera, et cetera. We do the prototyping and the tool training in parallel, do all the conceptual things, information design, dashboarding, visual analytics, and at the end of the day, also let them present in front of their CEO or whatever, so that they see, oh, what I do, I got attention for that. And this is, I think, the combination of saying, okay, we need a standard, we need to think about the process, about also being able to implement that in templates. And if we would like to scale within the people, the challenge is a good idea. That's it. Happy if you like to connect me via LinkedIn. We can discuss that even more. And again, thanks, Alex, for letting me speak here.